Heyo, welcome everyone to episode 101 of Today in the Scene. I'm Joe with Indie Arcade Wave, and I just want to say thank you for checking us out. If you like what we're doing here at Indie Arcade Wave, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It helps us a ton. It's going to grow the wave, and we can all ride it together. So this week we're going to talk to another indie developer in the arcade space. We spoke with Mark last week, and this one is going to be very close to home for Mark if you're watching. This one is KungFu Kickball. It's a really sweet indie arcade game that has been popping up on my newsfeed for a while now. The game has finally been developed and put into a cabinet by Jonah, and I've got him here to talk about the game. So I guess without further ado, how are you doing today?
Hi there. Doing great. How are you?
I'm fantastic. I'm super happy you're able to come on and chat about the game and just kind of let people know what KungFu Kickball is. Let's just start with an intro from you. Kind of tell us who you are, what you do.
Sure. So I am Jonah, aka Whale Food, and I am a one-man game development studio based in Brooklyn, New York. And yeah, my latest game that I recently released is KungFu Kickball, which came out on all the consoles, Steam, Xbox, PlayStation, and now I'm trying to get it out on more arcade cabinets. So that's what I'm working on these days.
Fantastic. I love to hear more arcade cabinets. That's always such a cool thing to me because you don't see these games in a lot of places. So when you do get to see them, like, I can't even imagine what Wonderville is like. I've talked to Mark about it plenty, but I won't know until I get there. So let's talk about KungFu Kickball. So how did KungFu Kickball start? Why did you start it? Like, kind of stuff like that.
Sure. So just to give a little overview of the game, my elevator pitch is KungFu Kickball is a team-based fighting sports game where the best ball kicker wins. You got to punch, kick, and headbutt your way across the field to smash the ball into your opponent's goal and rack up points. So it plays kind of like a cross between Smash Brothers and Rocket League. So it really came about because pre-COVID, there were a lot of game events in New York. And I noticed that these multiplayer games look like a lot of fun to show off because people are coming to the events, they're there with their friends, they want something to play together. You put a decent multiplayer game in front of them and they're just having a blast. So it's like, okay, I want to make something that could do well in that setting. And that is also something I would want to play. So I had just been getting over a Rocket League addiction and always been, a fan of Smash Brothers. So I was like, oh, maybe I could combine those into something interesting. And that's kind of how KungFu Kickball came about.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely looks like that's a clear cross between the two, and the game looks like a ton of fun. I really want to get my hands on it. Obviously, it's kind of far away from me, but I'm sure I'll be able to play it one day and give it a go. Let's talk about how you got into developing games. Like, what was it? Is there a memory in your past or something you can think of that made you go, I want to learn how to do that?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like my story is kind of common one is like, oh, my parents got me the original Nintendo when I was a kid, and then I've kind of been hooked ever since. So really, I wanted to develop games since then. I was like, oh, this Mario game is great. I want to make something like that. And then, I kind of took a winding path to get here. I was like, okay, to make games, I need to learn to program. So I went and got a degree in computer science. But then after I graduated college, I was like, oh, game industry, maybe not the best place right now. So I got a web development job, which I stayed at for a while. But then later on was like, wait, I got to get back to that original passion of like why I even got into this stuff. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to go on my own and try and make something. And luckily I was able to find actually a really great community here in New York. I'm part of this collective called Gumbo. We're all like independent game developers at work in the same office. So we're able to kind of boost each other up and help each other, get through this. Because making games is really tough. So having that community really helped me, actually, execute on some of those dreams. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's so important to have a collective and to find more people that are doing something similar to you or doing something that you want to do in the future. So find yourself that collective and get after it. It seems like Brooklyn has just a crazy development scene. Like, you guys have so much stuff at Wonderville, and like, I feel like every time I turn, like, Mark has got some new project or some new developer that he's showing off. Let's talk about your cabinet. Like, obviously, it's not super common to take a game and put it into an arcade cabinet. Most people just release it, right? Why did you decide to build the cabinet, and what was that process like?
So that was kind of a series of fortunate events. I had mentioned that I, originally made KungFu Kickball to because I wanted to make something that was fun to show at conventions and gatherings and stuff. Well, I'd known about Wonderville, or not Wonderville back then. Back then, it was just Death by Audio Arcade. It was before Mark owned the bar, and so they still made arcade cabinets, but they didn't have a space to put them. But they were looking for a new game to make, and so they had this event where they invited a bunch of indie devs to show off their games that might fit well in their next cabinet. And I got lucky, and they picked me. So Mark Cleve is actually the one who built my cabinet, and there was this whole event. So I don't know if you know about the convention called MAGfest. Really fun convention, happens early in the year, but Mark had a panel at MAGfest of how to build an arcade cabinet, and during the panel is when they actually built my my cabinet. So it was fun to like see it all come together right in front of me.
Yeah, that'd be pretty wild to have this idea, develop this game, know that it's like almost a real thing, and then watch them build it. Because I watched that panel, and
Oh, cool.
it was like an hour and a half, wasn't it? Or 2 hours maybe. So they built it right there in front of you, which would have been such a cool experience. And MagFest is definitely one that's on my radar. I'd love to make it out. So many people talk about how cool it is.
It's great. It's my favorite convention.
And it's close to you guys too. It's over. Where is it? It's in like Massachusetts or something.
It's in Maryland, kind of near DC. So
Okay.
close enough. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Let's talk about what kind of influence Wonderville has had on you. Like, obviously, you're talking to Mark, you're talking to all these guys, you're in there playing these games every once in a while. What influence did that have on your finished product of this game?
So, originally I was just envisioning it as a console game, but that connection to Mark and getting it into the cabinet, and then when Wonderville became a thing, and now it has a permanent life at Wonderville, I was like, wow, this is actually a really cool format for the game. Because the nice thing about a cabinet is you're usually at those spaces with friends already. So those kind of multiplayer games can work really well. But people want something to play together. So it was great seeing it there and seeing people enjoy it. And then and then it turned out other people were interested in the cabinet. So I had this guy who owns an arcade bar in Beacon, New York called Happy Valley, saw the cabinet in Wonderville and reached out to me and was like, hey, I'd like to get a KungFu Kickball cabinet of my own. And I was like, oh, cool. I wasn't really planning on making more of these, but sure, I'll talk to Mark and see if he can produce a second one. So then I worked with Happy Valley and Mark to get the second one produced and actually put it up in an arcade, like a arcade that's actually taking quarters. So it's kind of fun to see like people put in quarters to play the game. But it also got me thinking like, okay, maybe this is another opportunity for the game, another place for it to shine, which would be to actually, do a more serious production of these cabinets. So that's kind of what got this whole started and like getting more serious about the cabinets.
Yeah, you're always surprised when you start to build a project like this, which is like we've said already, is pretty unique. Not a lot of people are building arcade cabinets, so having that validation from more than one person near you that you should keep going with this. I want a cabinet myself. Like, it's a really cool thing to come across, and I'm sure in the process of building the cabinet, but obviously building the game, which is what you did here, you had some hurdles. So what are some like roadblocks that you came in contact with while you were building the game that you overcame that could help other developers in the future to know, like, look out for this, don't mess up here?
Most of the hurdles were actually unrelated to the cabinet. It was because I wanted it to have a chance on console. I put in online multiplayer, which was a huge pain. So I definitely recommend, if you're another developer out there, avoid online multiplayer. It probably doubled the development time. And there are solutions out there, but it was just, if you want something that's really responsive, it's just, it's a lot. Especially, tackling this as a solo developer. Another hurdle that was more worth it, though, was getting the AI in there. So I actually ended up using, the game's made in Unity. And Unity has this plugin called ML Agents, which is machine learning stuff you can stick in your game. So rather than trying to figure out how to program an AI to like actually know how to move around, kick the ball, I had the machine teach itself how to play. I just had it play tons and tons of games against itself, sped up, and then it eventually learned to get really good. So that's how I got the AI in my game. Also took some work, but I think that was more worth it.
Yeah, totally agree. AI is huge, especially if you're making an arcade game. We didn't have it in Galactic Battleground for probably 3 years. We finally just put it in the game. Like, it feels the way it should have felt because we always like it in 4-player, especially. So if you're thinking about AI, and I talked to the Cosmotron guys about this too, they said, just do it. Just make the AI, because you're going to spend more time talking yourself out of making it than you are going to actually spend making it. So just take the leap. Figure it out.
And it allows your game to be played single player. Like, that's the other big thing, is that now if someone's just hanging out in the bar alone, they can still play your game, which is great.
Exactly. And they get the full experience. They don't get like it's one person versus like a bad AI. It's like it feels like you're playing another person, and then you want to bring more people in. So just do it. Just take the leap. Let's talk about your gaming history. So you mentioned earlier, like, getting the original, like the Nintendos and stuff, was what got you into game development. What are some of those games that really stick out in your past that you're like, I really love this game. This meant a lot to me?
Let's see. I think the Super Nintendo was the real like formative gaming system for me. So, games like Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past, Mega Man X, Chrono Trigger. I think those games, really are cemented in nostalgia for me. And also, I kind of tried to imitate that pixel art style with KungFu Kickball. So I'm definitely going for like a 16-bit look there. But yeah, I still try to keep playing games, because I don't want to get too stuck in the past. People are still making new stuff that's really good.
Right. Well, I guess on that vein, let's talk about indies. Like, what kind of indies do you really like to play, and what are some of the indies that you find yourself continuously going back to when you're in Wonderville?
Let's see. In Wonderville, definitely Black Emperor is one I keep going back to. It's just really well-designed game, beautiful. And then I also really like Slam City Oracles. It's just really fun and playful. Yeah, the nice thing about Wonderville is all these like unique indie games. So, well, I guess Black Emperor exists in some other places, but Mark has made all these like custom cabinets for all these like one-off games. So they're always like really interesting. Even like Video Freak is kind of fun, just like messing with all the knobs. Oh, and actually finally got a chance to play Dobotron, which was really cool. Again, it's like a game with like all these knobs that you can play with, and it like changes the gameplay in special ways. It's like just like fun to play with.
Yeah, I mean, I think a reoccurring theme there in all the games you were talking about were all alternative cabinets. Like, it's different controls, which Dobotone is one that I've talked to Maximo and Hernan about. Like, it's really cool that they have these little buttons that you play with, that I know they made it as like little handhelds, and Mark has modified them a little bit since. But yeah, I mean, like the wheel on Black Emperor and all these different kind of alternative controllers are one thing that's super unique to Wonderville that I really want to get out there to try all these games. And like the trombone one that he was just talking about, that sounds wild to me. Yeah, that's pretty much everything I had for you, Jonah. Let's have you shout out social media so people can follow KungFu Kickball, and if they want to grab a cabinet, obviously they can get in touch with you. And any shout outs you want to make to like people in the space that helped you make this happen.
Well, obviously, big shout out to Wonderville and Wonderville Arcade for helping me get into this space, and also a shout out to Bumblebear. They're also another Brooklyn studio, and they've been giving me advice about the cabinet stuff. But yeah, my info is if you want to follow me on Twitter, I'm at WhaleFood Games. If you want to know more about the game, hit kungfukickball.com. And yeah, if you're interested in a cabinet, reach out to me at jonah@wfgames.com.
Sweet. Well, I'm going to put all that in the description so that you guys can check it out if you want to follow along with what Jonah's doing, or if you want to get a cabinet for your arcade. More indies are popping up everywhere, so don't miss out on it. I just want to say thank you for coming on, Jonah. I really appreciate you chatting about the game. KungFu Kickball looks sick, and I really want to play it. I just need one closer to Minneapolis. So we'll try and make that happen.
For sure.
But if you're still watching, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It helps us a ton. The wave will continue to grow, and we can all ride it together. But until next time, peace.
Thanks.